Welcome to the Go Earn It podcast. It is episode 28, part 2 with Jared Frayer, two-time All-American at Oklahoma, NCAA finalist in 2002, of course, the 2012 Olympian. Olympics are around the corner, Jared. What do you remember from that night inside Carver Hawkeye Arena, beating Brent Metcalf to secure your spot at the Olympic Games in 2012?
No, it's still a little surreal, man. It's crazy. It was, going on, what is it now? How many years? 12 years ago. Wow. Yeah. So it's been 3 cycles and still, that the pinnacle of my career, and just super grateful, and to have my wife there and my family, and kind of all came to fruition that, my last really domestic tournament that I got to compete in. And yeah, it was something that is extremely special. And I was blessed to go through a bunch of trials and tribulations leading up to that, and to come out on the other side on top. Just thinking back on it, it's not something I do a lot, but it's a pretty unique, special, every word you can imagine, the pinnacle of what I tried to do for probably 26 years of competing.
What do you remember from the first conversation you had with your dad after making that team?
There was a lot of tears, a lot of just excitement, and knowing how proud he was of me. And it was something, for the whole family. My sister was there, all the trips that she went on, and the heartache that they all experienced, alongside me. And just the journey that it took to be able to get there, and the people that it took to give me faith and push me and do all the things that I needed done. And just a special moment with all my family. My wife was pregnant with our second daughter, and it was just something that I'll never forget. And beating a guy like Brent Metcalf, and the aura that he has, especially in that city, at that time, especially, it was something that I love Carver Hawkeye. I love the Hawkeye wrestling fans. But to do that and to kind of see them, file out of Carver after that match, it was pretty wild, man. It was something really, really cool. And to do that, in a place that had, there were 16,000 or however many fans Carver Hawkeye holds. Every seat was filled.
What were things, Jared, along the way that you learned mentally in your approach that changed?
Just the grind and being able to trust in what you're doing. I was always the guy that lost to the Iowa guy. I was the guy that technically I thought was always better than the guy I was wrestling, but for some reason I had a mental block that I couldn't stay in there and hand fight and score at the end when I needed to, against a guy that was Brands trained or Gable trained. And so I really had to, it was a whole journey, and kind of the journey was something that was pretty cool when I look back on it. And I had to get in one of the Brands' minds and figure out what was the secret sauce that I was missing, because for some reason I would beat the Schwabs, I would beat the Zaddicks, but when it really mattered, the best 2 out of 3, I would lose the guy that was this top of the podium, the highest conditioned guy in the weight class. So I had to get in Terry Brand's mind a little bit and have him train me. And it probably wasn't what I needed as a competitor at the time, but up here was what really mattered. So I was underneath him for a year and a half. Then I coached at Iowa for a year. And I didn't compete during that year when I was at Iowa, but just being able to get that mindset, knowing that there was nothing, secret about it. It was about trusting what you're doing and giving full trust to what you're doing. You're doing it the right way, but trust in it. That preparation changes your expectations when you really trust in it. And then being able to go out there and do it, at the biggest stage in a place like Carver Hawkeye, and what had been my kryptonite for so long, and get it done when it counted, against a guy that, some say is the fiercest competitor and probably the most in shape guy that's ever touched the wrestling mat, and Brent Metcalf.
You talked about the journey and getting there, and I remember the year before, maybe it was 2 years before, you and Metcalf had that one match, a little bit of controversy. Were those your darkest days in the sport following that loss?
100%, 100%. It's just one of those things, and it came down 2 or 3 times really, where it was, it was that clinch, or it was that, all these just ridiculous rules. And, if it came down to wrestling, I was scoring the most points. It didn't really make sense to me. And, I kind of pseudo retired twice just because I was just so broken. I came down to the last guy. I was the, best 2 out of 3. And I would lose those matches based on I unlocked my hands, or whatever the case may be. It was some ridiculous, ball pull out of a hat. And, it didn't make sense to me. So, but like you said, that's, that was a part of the journey. I wouldn't have, finished on top if I didn't go through those. If I make a world team, a couple of years, maybe I'm done. Maybe I never wrestle in 2012. So yeah, it's all fruition. It's trusting in the Lord, and knowing that, he's got my back no matter what happens. And like that sign behind you says, go earn it. Go earn it. Do the right things, and things will come in the process.
You got a moment, Jared, you got a go earn it moment where you had to make a decision to really say, hey, this is going to happen, and here's how I'm going to make it happen, or I'm going to step away?
To be honest with you, it was Tom Brands, actually, which is pretty wild. Two scenarios dragging me into college coaching. I was the alternate to Doug Schwab in Beijing in 2008. Went over there, spent 3 weeks training him and getting some of the guys ready. And he caught, I was done. I was going to go coach high school wrestling. And we got on a Skype from Beijing, and he offered me the strength and conditioning job at the University of Iowa. And I was like, man, I'm done with, I don't want to coach college wrestling. It's too hard. And as far as being away from my family, yada, yada, yada. And then not 2 nights later, my wife said, man, I prayed about it, and I think we got to go to Iowa. So I get drugged back into the sport. I was going to still be in the sport, but I was going to do a club and coach stuff, or coach high school in Florida. So that phone call, him offered me that job. And then circa 7 months later, I work out with the club guys, but I'm there to be the strength and conditioning coach for the Hawkeyes. We win the NCAA title. About 2 weeks later, I'm training with Schwab and Metcalf and, all the other guys that are training in the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. And Tom Brands drags me aside. He says, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm doing my job." He's like, You're smacking these guys. You need to wrestle." And, I'm at the time, I guess I'm 29 or something like that. And I said, well, this is Tom Brands telling me this. Dude's the Olympic champion. He's the coach of the Hawkeyes. He's my boss. And I said, all right, man, I'll start bringing my weight down, and we'll go wrestle in, one of these last chance qualifiers. And, so sure enough, I end up in the finals of the World Team Trials, and I think I lost. I don't know. I think I lost to Paulson, but I beat Metcalf. I beat Schwab. Darian Caldwell was the big name at the time. I think he just beat Metcalf in the finals that year, and beat him in the World Team Trials. And so I was back on my journey, and Tom Brands put me there because he didn't think I should not be wrestling. So that just kind of reignited my passion for the sport, and my passion to compete. And, the rest is history.
What were the Olympics like?
Really cool. Really cool. And it was about, the 2008 was really cool, because I was like, man, I'm probably never going to do this again. I love sports. I'm going to go to every sport I can see. I'll be ready to work out in the morning, but I'm going to stay up till, 2 in the morning watching Team USA play basketball, LeBron and Kobe and all these guys. So I was able to do all the cool stuff that I wanted to do, as far as go watch Phelps, go watch Usain Bolt. I'm a fan of sports. I love every sport. So I was able to do all that while I was the alternate. So as the guy in 2012, I really focused on me, but the one time I was able to kind of step away was the opening ceremonies. And just, I got some cool pictures with James Harden and LeBron, and just being around that, and knowing the significance of that night, and why I'd watched that my whole life. Every time the opening ceremony happens, we're glued to that TV, and knowing that, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people are watching these unbelievable athletes walk around a stadium. That was probably the defining moment of me being an Olympian, and being around those just incredible athletes from around the world.
If you could do it again, what would you do different? Olympics specifically, anything?
I'd say no. And to this day, I needed my wife. You need to work on your ability to say no. I knew my body at that point. I was 33 years old. I knew what I needed to do and not do. And so we went to London, and this is all hearsay. And it's like, I don't want to, there's no excuses, but we left London and flew to Belarus to train for a week. And I knew I was ready. I never wrestled better in my life. I was ready to go. And we wrestled a simulation tournament, probably 4 or 5 days before I would actually wrestle in London. And there were some international guys. There was all kinds of guys kind of training in this. It's like an old ski village in Belarus. It's kind of like their OTC, their Olympic Training Center type deal. So we do this last match. I'm kind of checked out. I'm like, let's get back to London, man. It's time to go. I'm locked in. And I blew out my shoulder. Last match, last 30 seconds of the go, just shredded my shoulder. I didn't know that at that time, but I knew something was really bad. Luckily, Doc Hines was on the trip with us, my college orthopedic. He was my go-to guy for a long time on the circuit. Was able to shoot me up and get me ready to compete, but it just wasn't. I had no power. It was just kind of, I tearing my bicep, tearing all my labrum, rotator cuff. But just being able to be like, dude, I'm old enough. This is good for Jordan. This is good for Coleman. These guys are all youngsters. I needed to have trust. And that was one of the reasons I made the team, is just trusting my body, trusting my training. But I didn't say no. And that looking back, that's the only here nor there. Just like I should have done a little better job that last, the most important part of the time, the last week of my training. So that's why I try and preach to my guys, dude, when you're ready, you're ready. Let me know. Let's be honest. Let's communicate and trust in what you've already put in.
What did you learn at the 2001 national tournament?
That was a, never say die kind of tournament. That's my, one of my best friends, Josh Lambrick, who went in by 12 points, getting pinned. Myself not going out there and letting it fly like I've done my whole career. Losing a close match to another one of my good friends, Jared Lawrence, just a stud in the sport, a great coach now, someone that I look up to as not only as a competitor, but as a coach. He does a great job with his Pinnacle guys. And then, greatness, Cael Sanderson, 10-minute applause after my boy just got crushed the match before, winning the match and getting pinned, seeing Cael Sanderson beat John Trench for his 4th NCAA title. It's history, it's greatness. It was a pretty special, for it being in Albany, New York. There was some pretty epic matches and moments in that tournament. So not only my senior year, but it was something that will go down as a special night that Saturday night.
What's something about that tournament, Jared, that you really have to experience to fully grasp? Like you got to experience it.
Yeah, we tell our guys that, you don't. Our true freshmen, especially guys that have aspirations of winning that thing and placing that thing and doing well at that thing, you got to go. My first tournament was my redshirt freshman year when I stepped on the mat, and that's partly on me, not taking that and driving to, I think the 1998 NCAA tournament, I believe, was in Ohio. So I probably should have gotten in a car and driven up there and experienced it myself, because there is nothing like it. I mean, the roars, the sound of the crowd, just the constant action, the ups and downs. You can't. There's nothing that can epitomize that tournament like being on the ground there. So Yeah, there's so much involved. There's so much movement behind the scenes, running back and forth from weigh-ins and meals and making weight and so many things that we do, I think, as a staff that gets our guys ready for it and tries to make it as easy and less stressful as possible is something that I think helps us be successful at that tournament when it comes down to it. So yeah, you got to be there, man. You got to experience it. If you're a fan and you haven't been there, then you're really, really missing out. It's something epic every single year, and it never disappoints.
What's top of mind for you when you think about the actual match with Jared Lawrence in that NCAA final? What do you remember what do you remember, Jared, from being in the tunnel, running up on the big stage, and then ultimately in the match?
Just realizing that, I was not right. It was something that was bigger than I had ever anticipated. And and it's a bad feeling, right? It's just like your feet feel like cinder blocks. You're just not moving the way you typically do. You're not relaxed and letting it fly. And that's a guy that'll sting you. And if you're not going out there with full confidence, and he did, and that's all it took. And for me to lose a 1 point match 3-2 or something like that, it's just not typical of what I'm about. So yeah, it's not good. It's not good feelings about that that last match, regardless. But I was able to right some wrongs in the future, and it's all a part of it. And I'm proud to be an NCAA finalist. Dang, would I like to be a champion? Dang right I would.
When I talk to you guys on this podcast, it's a question I've been asking lately. Like, you ever sit back, Jared, and realize like you were pretty gall darn good? I mean, I think the one thing that blows my mind is like you talk to some of these guys like, oh, were you an All-American? Yeah, one time. It's like one time, like 99% of us aren't good enough to wrestle Division I, let alone become an All-American to get on that stand. You make an Olympic team, you're in the NCAA finals, you're a conference champion. Like, you ever sit back and go like, dang, I was all right. Like, that was pretty good.
No, man, I don't. I love getting better every single day. I love the coaching part of it. I mean, it's kind of my dad, kind of the roots that I was given. And man, I probably bereave more than anything. Like, dang, the stuff I was such a knucklehead, and how much better I could have been. So I try and push that along to my athletes, just the little things, and not you know not losing perspective, and giving yourself the chance to be as great as you possibly can be, because it's such a short time frame. So yeah, man, I try and use my downfalls and my lack of discipline. I think I was gifted a lot. I think I was born to be a wrestler, and my mindset of just being able to go for it helped me win a lot of matches. But I just think about the lack of discipline I had in many senses. And it's something that I earned through trial and error. And I want to give to my guys, and that's that big aspect of it, is not letting them do some of the stuff that I was careless in doing. And so I'm excited for the future of our guys, and the relationships I have with our guys each year, and trying to let them earn the highest accolades that they can possibly earn.
Who's the most disciplined wrestler you've ever been around?
There's I would say three right now, of the guys that are, and I've been around some pretty disciplined guys. Andrew Howe is about as disciplined as they came. But I think he's the same way. He's going to be a much better coach than he was an athlete. He was a pretty doggone good athlete. Jesse Jansen at Harvard, to win an NCAA title, and do the special things that he did in the sport, and also get a degree at an institution like that. And he did everything at a very, very high level, whether it was academics or athletics. He was extremely disciplined. You just look at his body, and I mean, he was just a savage. And then, right now, Caleb Hinson is the guy. He does everything meticulously, and not only is he a student of the sport, he's a student of his body. He's a student of everything that revolves around getting his hand raised. And that's, whether it's sleep, nutrition, recovery, the whole 9 yards. He's probably right now one of the most meticulous guys I've ever been around in this sport. And I think his future is very, very bright because of that.
As an athlete, Jared, what's a match you learned the most from?
Learn the most from, it was definitely that Olympic trials, the being the fifth seed. But I just knew I was going to win. Like, I just trusted in what I did. And, that's kind of match by match, just knowing that, just go out there and do what you're trying to do and let the cards fall how they may. That was, those 5 matches at that tournament, I had never been more confident. And regardless if I won or lost, I knew I had done everything I possibly could to give myself a chance to win. And that's kind of what it's all about. This sport is too fun. This game is too fun to put all this pressure on you and not allow yourself to do what you do. So yeah, those type of matches, the matches where I wrestled my best was when I just went out there free and let it fly. So there's a lot of there's a match I was wrestling. It's always seems like there's a Zadok in the picture, but I was beating Mike Zadok. He was ranked #1 in the country, 11-0 going into the second period. And I wish I had the rules this year. Right now, it would have been a tech fall real quick. But anyhow, he came back and won 20-18, and that's a match that, if you can't learn something from that, you're you're asleep at the wheel. So just being, knowing there's always a chance. One takedown is not going to beat you. Just go out there and do what you do and give yourself the best chance to win. That's kind of the motto.
You and I were talking about the national tournaments, and your national tournaments were unique from the standpoint of, and I know things happen every tournament, but correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jared. One year you're there, and Reggie Wright's the #1 seed. Oklahoma State, you probably thought you were going to wrestle him, and then Zadok beats him. And then you have another year, I think it was the year you made the final. Zadok was the #1 seed. You probably think you're going to get Zadok again. And then Troy Percival beat Zadok. You beat Percival in the semis. But when I was looking at your brackets, I thought to myself, man, Jared Frayer's path just reminds me of that tournament. You don't know what you're going to get. And I know we can sit here and talk about it, but the reality is, you were probably thinking you were getting those guys and you didn't. What did you learn from navigating those tournaments the way they shook out?
Yeah, it's kind of, I tell these guys, you don't have to beat everybody. You just got to beat the next guy. And, you look at these kids are so well versed and, they've wrestled the same kids and they know every bracket. And, the flow wrestling gives you so much. Track wrestling, they know the ranking, who they wrestle, who they beat, and who they're going to see. And you just have to beat the next guy. And, like you said, it's not they're never going to play out the way you want them to play out or the way you think they're going to play out. You just have to be ready to go and trust in yourself and go out there and have some fun. So yeah, that's the biggest deal. Just that's kind of our motto going into every tournament. You don't have to beat everybody, just the next guy. So yeah, it's yeah, especially the NCAA tournament, man. Golly, what a fun event. 265 days from today.
Going to be great. You said it before, it never disappoints, and it never does. Who is your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. Ooh. I was watching someone asked this to Pritzloff a couple weeks ago or months ago, and no one says Dave Schultz. Dave Schultz is kind of a guy that needs to be up there. He's a strong, he's the base of a lot of what USA Wrestling is all about, right now. So I'll throw Dave Schultz up there. My man JB is always going to be up there. Oh gosh, Kyle Snyder's going to be up there real quick. He's if he's not up there, he's going to be the guy here in 4 or 8 years. He's just such a competitor, and just when it's time, he's there. There's nothing short about that. And let's get a fourth guy. For me personally, probably John W, man. John W kind of set the standard. there's the Bruce Baumgartners, who was, won so many doggone medals and, was a hero of mine as well. But yeah, those guys are probably the four. Dave Schultz, JB, John W, and who did I say? Kyle Snyder?
And Kyle.
Kyle.
If you could go back and have a conversation with an 18-year-old Jared Frayer, how does that conversation go?
You got the rest of your life to have fun, man. It's lock it down. You're not that good. Yeah, pretty much that, reminding myself that I'm not that good and I need to lock in. And if I want to make gains on the best guys, I need to, be a little more locked in on what I do. The social life is great, but it's not, my best friends right now aren't the guys that I was partying with in college. That's for sure. They're the guys that have been with me and held me to a higher standard and kept me accountable. And, that's what it's all about is being in the moment, being present, and, knowing what your goals are.
You got to take a ride from Florida cross country in a car with 3 other people that you've never met, dead or alive, that you've never met.
Oh, geez.
Who you want to go on the car ride with?
Oh, golly, Shane. I'd struggle not to take you on it, man.
We've met though. I've known you for 20 years already.
No, I haven't met. Okay.
Dead or alive that you haven't met.
All right. I'll take Jesus. I'd like to have some conversations with him. Let
me ask you this, Jared. If you get to ask Jesus one question, you got one question for him. What are you going to ask him?
Oh man, there's a lot of. Well, hopefully I'm in his book, so I hope I've got that covered. Yeah, there's probably a lot of whys, and that's not something that you're supposed to ask, but there'd be a lot of, why is this what it is, and why do good people die and are put in positions that are extremely sad, difficult, and so there'd be a lot of whys. But yeah, then you throw Jesus and Michael Jordan and who else in the car? I'll try and get one more for you. I wouldn't mind picking like Mickey Mantle or Lou Gehrig or somebody like that. Just a GOAT type guy that showed up every day and found a way to get it done. And Lou Gehrig seemed like a pretty special dude. So throw him in there and really talk it up. Throw some Morgan Wallen radio on there and just chalk it up, man.
You mentioned Miami before. Growing up in Miami, who's your favorite Hurricane of all time?
Ooh, dang! Ray Lewis was a bad dude. And he was actually wrestling the same conference as my dad, so I was able to be around him when he was in high school wrestling. He was Lakeland Kathleen, and he wear this red singlet and have the red tights underneath. And what an imposing individual that guy was at 189 pounds in a full red singlet plus tights, and pretty special football player as well. So him and all those, they were all just savage. Vinny Testaverde and Gino Torretta and obviously Michael Irvin and all those guys that were freaks. It was a cool time to be a fan, and you didn't know what you know now of what how pathetic they were off the field and just but to be Jimmy Johnson and those guys, it was the greatest show on earth. It was awesome. The way they showboated, and when I was 7-8 years old, that was cool to do, but it's not that cool. Act like you've been there, right, Shane?
Exactly. Barry Sanders, right? I mean, Barry Sanders. I grew up watching Barry Sanders flip it to the ref. I mean, it was like, it's kind of like, Metcalf once, there was an interview with him once that I saw about like, why don't you act like it's a big deal? Something about like, I don't want the guy to think that I'm that impressed by beating him. Like, yeah, I beat you. What did you think was going to happen? I kind of like that. But I will say this, Jared, the older I get, I'm softening up a little bit. I think I'm actually getting softer the older I get, where it's like, I kind of like entertainment. Like, I mean, it's one of those things like this, Jared. If I, as a fan, there are certain guys I love as a fan. If I was an athlete, that wouldn't work for me. And if I was a coach, I'd be like, don't do that. But as a fan, it's like, oh, I love it. I love it. So it is what it is.
Yep. Yep. And there is some fun too, you know, guys really being, I mean, genuinely excited to score or genuinely excited to get the fall. And, you know, that there's something, you know, just youthful about that. And, you know, to be you know, to have a skit already drawn, that's a little ridiculous, but to be genuinely happy and, you know, you accidentally spike the football and to get it, you know, it's kind of silly. It's fun to see some excitement, especially.
So who's your favorite athlete all time?
Whew, man, Barry Sanders was fun, dude. He was fun to watch. Michael Jordan, I've never been a fan of the NBA, but man, those 15 years he was in the league, I didn't miss it. Plus I think everyone had TBS back in the day where you could watch
Atlanta Braves baseball.
TBS was Atlanta Braves.
Yes.
What was the Chicago station?
WGN, Chicago.
WGN. So you had the Cubs and the Bulls every night, yes. Man. So yeah, so those were exciting times. You growing up, you know, that's the stuff you remember, but yeah, Barry Sanders was pretty fun. Gosh, that's a good question. Joe Montana, man, what a savage that guy was. Joe Montana.
You have any posters in your bedroom of athletes?
Jerry Rice, I had a poster. Jerry Rice and Bo Jackson. What a bad. I mean, every kid our age loved Bo Jackson, man. He did it all. Him and Dion. So, yeah, I would say Bo Jackson was one of the bigger than life figures in my life growing up.
So I'm gonna ask you this, Jared. If there was a Jared Frayer poster, what move is on that poster? What is the most memorable move you've ever hit in your career? Or if there's a Frayer poster, that's on the poster. Who did you posterize?
It's got to be the wrestling that Russian in Times Square and going double overs and just letting it fly. Probably the only time I've ever really just gone for it. And I mean, to have Times Squares in the background and, you know, hearing, you know, the guys on the mic and just something that I'll never forget. You know, the Olympics and stuff was awesome. Carver hockey was cool, but to have that moment of throwing a 5-point move in Times Square against the USA versus Russia, that's something that I grew up watching that all the time. And to have that happen, it was just, I mean, to this day, it's just super, super cool.
Final question for you. You can take this anywhere you want to, okay? Finish this sentence. I believe. How do you finish it?
And my Lord and Savior. I mean, there's a lot of cliches, but as long as I believe in my Lord and Savior, I'm gonna show up on time. I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna respect the person next to me, and you know, what I do means something.
It's been a blast, Jared. Thank you so much. And I would simply say this: you need to be a head coach sooner than later. Sooner than later. The fact, I'll just go on my little quick rant before I let you go. The fact that you are not a head coach someplace might be one of the craziest things in all of college wrestling. You need to be a head coach, and you need to be a head coach soon. And I know you're doing a great job there at Virginia Tech, and you do an awesome job there, and it's great. But you need to be a head coach in college wrestling. That's the end of my rant.
All right. In God's time, I'm sure that'll happen, but I am truly blessed to be where I'm at. And man, I just appreciate your support and what you do for college wrestling, buddy. You're the man.
Appreciate the time, Jared. Thank you so much.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.